Okay, sit yourself onto your left and then come into a good cross-legged position. Just have a little wriggle about, make sure that you feel that you're sitting evenly. So just have a little wriggle and just spend a moment or two just to observe how the seat bones are placed. And if necessary, just roll over, move the buttock flesh back and out to the side, just so that you're really certain that you're even. Because this this base is really essential for a good lift of the chest. Because if you're not level here, then you're not level up here, or you have to kind of do a weird twist of the spine in order to find that levelness. So spend a little time just observing the levelness, and then drive your heart area upwards, drawing your shoulders down. Just look down at the floor, look at something that's not moving. Just listening to the sound of the breath as it enters and as it exits. And then bring your hands into Namaste. Lengthen the armpits away from the elbows so that the hands are really extending away from the body. Push the elbows in towards the heels of the hands, and then the heels of the hands up into the fingertips. And then gently close your eyes. Just listen to the sound of the breath as it enters and as it exits. Observing the lift and expansion of the chest with the in-breath, and just encourage that action in order that the in-breath can remain non-resistant. Breathing into the armpit chest, into the back chest, into the front chest. Just feeling that you can expand the chest to accommodate the breath. With an exhalation, draw your chin down to meet your chest and spend a moment to seek to generate a genuine, heartfelt sense of gratitude for something or someone or somewhere. Just hold on to that feeling of abundance in the heart area, and Gently release the backs of your hands down toward your knees, your palms facing upwards. And then as you raise your head, allow your eyes to softly open and the focus to softly come back. Just hold onto your knees, elevate your heart area upwards and draw your shoulders down away from your ears. Take a deep inhalation in through the nose and then turn to the right side. Drawing the abdominal flesh from the left to the right, pointing the belly button towards the right knee and beyond it. Digging the back hand into the floor or onto the cushion that you're sitting on and really turn the chest. And then come back to the center. Hold onto your knees. Lift up into the chest. And then turn to the left. Drawing your abdomen across your ribs and your shoulders. Digging that back hand firmly into the floor. And turning the chest. And then come back to the center. Just come off your lift and then sit back on your heels. Have the knees apart, have the toes together, the big toes together, have the knees apart. Just let your shins sink into the ground. Trying to press the shin bone consciously into the shin skin so that you really consciously activate the thighs. And then you elevate the heart area upwards and keep driving forwards with the heart area as you come forward. Coming forward, keeping the head lifted, coming from the heart rather than the head. Just spread the palms as you come down. Keep your arms straight. Keep the outer elbows drawing inwards, pushing the mat away from you as you come down. Keeping the heart area lifted. And then finally bring the forehead down. If you feel that you've lost contact between the seat bones and the heels, just bring the hands a little closer to your head and then push down in the tailbone region. So listen to the sound of the breath. Observe how the breath feels. Can you inflate into the side ribs? Listen to the sound of the breath as it enters and as it exits. So in Adho Mukha Virasana, the breath feels different because often the abdomen is a little constricted. So stretching the arms away, feeling that you can really stretch out the spine. Come up onto your knees. Have your hands as wide apart as the mat. Bring your feet as wide apart as the mat. And then come up into dog down. Initially, bend your knees and just elevate the seat bones up to the ceiling. Tilt the tailbone up towards the ceiling. Keep the arms straight by locking the outer elbows inwards. And then straighten your legs. Lift the fronts of the thighs up to the top of the leg, turning the fronts of the thighs inwards. Just breathing into the side ribs, listening to the sound of the breath. Just work to observe the levels of effort in the legs and in the arms and in the chest, and try and make it even everywhere. Working to 90% rather than 100, so that you got space to extend further. And then step your feet forwards, come up into a standing position. Bring your feet as wide apart as your mat, turning your toes inwards. Lift up into the heart area, stretch your arms down, spread the toes, hit the shins back so that your weight goes into your heels. Tightening the kneecaps, lifting the chest, raising the arms. And then hook the elbows, the thumbs into the crease of the elbow. If you've got a bad back, then just come forwards and rest your elbows on the back of a chair or on top of a table. Otherwise, hinge at the hips. Keep the head lifted, keep the arms lifted as you come down, hinging at the hips, and then hang down in uttanasana. So it's a good stretch out of the back, but you got to keep the legs firmly activated as though you're still in dog down. So just coming halfway if you've got a bad back. Just hitting the shins back. Lifting the shins out of the ankle sockets, lifting the kneecaps, lifting the thighs. Breathing even deep inhalations and exhalations. And then release your hands down to the floor. Just come into half uttanasana. Bring your hands onto your shins if you can't reach the floor. Just extending the chin and the chest forwards. Just reactivating the legs so that they feel, so they're working evenly. And then bring your hands into your hips, come up into a standing position, and then come into tadasana. So, in your pose, when you're in the pose, sometimes the temptation to just kind of try and move into your maximum is really hard to resist, isn't it? But when you're in the pose, before you just try and stretch to your maximum, because when I'm teaching in classes, when we do trikonasana, you see people in all sorts of odd positions, and they're really going for it. They're really trying, and sometimes you just have to go back to the beginning because they're actually missing the point. Because actually, what they're not doing is observing. They're doing what they think that they've seen, and it doesn't look like that at all. And so they're trying to kind of do the pose with their ego, but you've got to try and do it with the sensitivity, with feeling. So it's all about how the body feels and connecting with that, how the physical body feels, not how the emotional body feels. Sometimes it's best to not dwell on that too much, isn't it? how the physical body feels, because that is the way that we communicate with the world. Our physical body is the first thing that we present to the world. So we have to get in touch with the feeling from the inside. So in tadasana, just really lifting from the feet, but observe how the feet just have to kind of subtly work to maintain our balance. So our balance in our feet maybe shifts. The action of the legs, perhaps it doesn't feel even. Maybe it feels like you work with one leg more than the other. So whichever is the willing leg, make the unwilling leg follow suit. Make the unwilling leg copy the willing leg. Tuck the tailbone in and lift. So that action of drawing the tailbone in, try not to let that hit your legs forwards. Really resist that forward push when you draw the tailbone in. Draw the tailbone towards the front of the body and up into the abdomen, up into the diaphragm and the collarbone. Bring your arms out nice and wide into the chest, and then step or jump your feet apart. And then just at this stage, just feel where gravity is. Feel where the action of the body is. So is gravity dragging you down? Just let gravity drag you down a second. So very quickly, if you let gravity get the better of you, then almost a kind of a fog comes over your head, and we lose the connection with the physical body. So then work from the feet, spread the toes. Try and bring your weight onto the little toe side of the foot. Press the feet really consciously into the floor, so that then you can lift up and into the hips. And as soon as you do that, you lift into the chest, but lift from the hips up into the chest. And then extend into the fingertips, really spread the palm skin, and then just observe whether the body is working evenly, whether the left leg and the right leg are working evenly. Whether you're working at 90%, try not to work at 100, because 100 is a full stop. Just find that level. Turn your left toes in slightly and your right leg and foot all the way out, slicing these inner thighs outwards. So observe how that changes the perspective of the legs. Maybe you have to work a little harder in this leg to make this leg work harder. Keep the feet and the legs even as you come over slowly, so that you come over with a leg centric action. Find the shin. Try not to lose the legs. Keep the legs there even though you can't see them. Look up to the ceiling. Keep your focus in the legs, in the feet. Press the feet into the floor, lift from the feet up into the hips, from the hips up into the chest, into the arms. Reaching up to the pose, not hanging down to the pose. So maintain your focus on the sensations of the pose. Come back to the center. Swap the feet around, turn the right toes in and the left leg and foot all the way out. And then again, go back to the feet. Press the feet into the floor, lift from the feet up into the hips. Turning the thighs of both legs outwards. fronts of the thighs outwards. Maintaining that connection, especially to that back leg as you come down. And then turn the chest. Look up. Once you've made contact with the shin. So see the body in 3 dimensions through the feeling of the pose. So the temptation is to lose that back leg. So make sure that you activate it to keep it there. Press that back leg towards the wall behind you. Squeeze the front leg buttock bone forwards. Lift the chest. And then come back up to the center. Bring the feet parallel. And then step or jump your feet back together. And then come back up into standing position. So I step my feet together just because I'm on a kind of not a very reliable floor. But if you can jump your feet together, then you just bring more energy into the pose. So if you can jump, jump. If you don't want to or you can't, then just step. So just observe the feeling of the body, the feeling of the legs. Just look forward and see the physical body through the feeling of the pose. Just keep your eyes looking directly forwards. And as you do so, see if you can activate the hind ear hearing, the hearing behind you. So focus in your ears behind you. Maintaining the hind ear hearing, and draw your focus to the fore ear hearing, the spectrum of sound in front of you. And then activate the lower ear hearing down into the body. Keeping your eyes still, observe that you look from the center eye, the center of the eye. Without moving the eyes, see if you can encapsulate the upper eye vision. And the lower eye vision. And the outer eye vision. Draw in your visual ocular awareness to the corner of the temples by the ears. So we activate the senses so that we become alert, become awake. And then bring your hands out to the sides. Just observe how that affects your legs and accommodate the change. In towards the chest, and then step or jump the feet a little wider apart than previously. Turn your left toes in, your right leg and foot all the way out. And just observe, looking directly forwards, just observe the sensations of the body, observe the position of the body in 3 dimensions. You can keep the back leg straight and then bend the right knee for Virabhadrasana 2. Bend in that right knee so that you find a right angle. Just feel that you find a right angle. And then look over the middle finger of the right hand. Don't lose the back of the body, the back leg, the back arm, the back chest. See the body in 3 dimensions. And then straighten the legs, swap the feet around. Turn the right toes in, the left leg and foot all the way out. Just reset in the middle, just feeling where the feet are, feeling the sensations within the physical body, keeping that back leg straight, and then bend that knee. Bend the knee until it feels like you have found your right angle. And then look over the middle finger of the left hand. Maintaining your attention in the back body, as in the right side and the physical back and the front body. Maintaining the breath. And then straighten the leg, bring the feet parallel, and then step or jump your feet back together, and then come back into tadasana. Just breathing evenly and deeply. Just spending a little time inside the body, just also acknowledging that perhaps the breath is deeper. Maybe your heart is beating a little faster after Virabhadrasana 2. Just stretch your arms out in front, interlock the fingers, turn, palms all the way out, squeezing the outer elbows in, and then raise your arms over your head. Again, keeping the eyes looking forwards, keeping the owl and visual awareness as broad as you can. Allowing the lower ear hearing to listen to the body. Listen to the sensations of the body rather than the sound of the body. Maintain evenness of the breath. Are you breathing into both lungs evenly? Adjust it if you don't. Feel from the feet into the shins, into the thighs, into the hips, into the abdomen, into the chest, into the armpits, the elbows, the wrists, the hands, the neck, and the head. Just release your hands, swap the interlock of your fingers so that the other index finger is on the top of the stack, and then raise your arms, straight arms. Just observing the physical sensations of the pose. Observing your balance through the feeling. And then release your hands and then just come back into tadasana. And then just bring the feet hip width apart, turn your toes in. Again, go halfway, just bringing your arms or your elbows onto the back of a chair. If you've got a bad back, always raise your arms up. Feel that there's even effort of the legs. Are you turning the toes inwards to give you space in the hips? Bring your thumbs into the crease of the elbows, wrap your fingers around the outsides of the elbows, and then keeping the head lifted, keeping the arms lifted, just come forwards and then just gently hang down. So make sure that your feet are wide enough to accommodate the pose. Lifting from the feet, stamping the feet down, hitting the shins back. Lifting the shins out of the ankle socket. Lifting the kneecaps away from the shins, lifting the thighs away from the kneecaps, right up into the hip socket. Okay, and then just release your hands down to the floor. Just come into half uttanasana, find the shins if you can't reach the floor. And then walk your hands towards the end of your mat. Bring your hands shoulder width apart, step your feet hip width apart. And then just be in Adho Mukha Svanasana, dog down. Just spend some time in the pose, just observing your internal balance of effort. Observing the breath. So work from the sensations of the pose and work to keep the effort even between the two legs, between the legs and the arms, between the arms and the torso and the legs, between the breath and the effort, the physical effort. Keeping your attention inward. Pratyahara, withdrawing the senses into the physical pose. Consciously working at 90%, because that gives you space to move further. Working at 100% will just tire you out, and you can't really go any further than 100%. So your effort levels are better at 90, or if you don't want to do 90, 95, because that still gives you space. Okay, come down onto your knees. And then sit back on your heels. And then just observe the energy of your body. Observe that lightness on the inside. Just listening to the sound of the breath as it enters and as it exits. Just observing whether that lightness of energy feels even on both sides, and if not, use the breath to distribute it more evenly. Okay, so we're gonna do supta virasana. So have a bolster. If you haven't got a bolster, you can use lots of cushions to kind of give yourself a lift. So if a bolster typically isn't enough for you, then put some extra blocks underneath the bolster like this. So you've got a couple of layers of blocks, a couple of blocks there, and then you bring your bolster higher. Like I say, if you haven't got a bolster, you can just pile up some cushions. Just try and make them quite high, because you'll need some height for this. So give yourself enough height so that you're gonna be able to maintain the pose, because it's quite a challenging pose at first, and then have something for your head. So have a little folded blanket for your head. If you've got uncomfortable knees, or if you've got dodgy knees, then you might want to do supta baddangulyasana instead. So supta baddangulyasana is this one. So you still use the bolster and open the chest. Or you can either get a belt and put the belt into the back of the knee, like this, and then pull the belt away from you as you come back and sit back, and then you can just leave that belt in the back of your knee, and it gives you more space in the back of the knee. Or you can get a blanket. This is a really good one. Get a folded blanket, bring it right into the backs of the knees, and then sit back, and you get lots of space. So you're sitting between the 2 feet. The knees are together, the feet are apart, and you're not right up against the bolster at this stage. And then you're just going to lift up into the chest. So keep the head in line with the spine. Come down onto your elbows. It all feels very odd at first, and then just come down onto the bolster. Now at this stage, maybe it pinches a little in the lumbar. So press the knees down onto the floor, and then turn the tailbone inwards and up towards the ceiling. And then get hold of the buttock flesh, and then encourage the buttock flesh to draw down towards the backs of the knees. Broaden across the abdomen, drawing the abdomen in towards the spine. And then just let your arms rest at the sides of the body. So you can soften the tailbone region, but if it's uncomfortable in your lumbar, then just keep lengthening the tailbone away from the sacrum, away from the lumbar, so that you keep the back flattened. So ideally, your knees are directly on the floor and the knees stay together. There's always a bit of a tendency in this pose for the knees to come apart. See if you can keep them together as much as you can. So supta virasana with a lift underneath the body is just a good way to maintain that broadness and that awareness of the physical body. So observe the physical sensations of the pose, drawing your attention away from areas of discomfort. Draw your focus into areas of freedom within the body. And then try and distribute that feeling into areas of discomfort. See the body through the physical sensations of the pose. Maintaining that deeper ocular awareness, using the upper, the lower and the outer eye vision, the hind ear and the fore ear and the lower ear hearing. Even if you close your eyes, keep your eyes alert. So when you see a deer in a forest, it's alert to every sound around it. It's alert to its environment because its survival relies on it. And as human beings, that level of alertness has been dampened because we live in houses, we live in, well, not everyone lives in safer environments, unfortunately, but we live in environments of relative safety. And so that has dulled our natural alertness. And through our practice, we can reignite that alertness so that the brain becomes active, so that the physical body becomes conscious, or the brain becomes conscious of the physical body. We connect the physical body and the sensations of the physical body to the brain. So giving yourself that extra height underneath the body just gives you greater ease and comfort within the pose. So although it still has its challenges, of course, it becomes easier to maintain it. In a moment, we're going to come out of the pose. So when you do that, then push your elbows into the floor. Push your elbows into the floor and lift the chest. Try not to poke the head forwards as you come up. Lift from the chest. Push your elbows into the floor and then push your hands into the floor and then just lift yourself up. Now, your legs will feel like they're kind of jammed into position a little. So just come onto all fours, onto your knees, and they'll be pretty reluctant to straighten, but see if you can turn your toes under a little. And then we're going to go up into a narrow dog down. So just gently allow your legs to softly straighten, tightening your kneecaps. And then although we normally resist bringing the heels down after supta, virasana, it feels really good just to bring the heels down. You get a tremendous stretch at the backs of the calves. Feels really good. So just gently allowing the legs to come back to life. And perhaps you make other observations about how the body is feeling. Just come down back onto your knees when your legs have recovered, and then just sit yourself in cross legs. So supta virasana is quite intense, isn't it? But if you sit in cross legs now and just observe your energy, maybe your energy feels really good in the chest. Maybe it feels like you really drawn your energy into your arms and your chest and your legs and up into your head. Take a deep inhalation and then gently turn around to the right side. Drawing the abdomen across. Using the turn just to, again, stretch out of the previous pose. Just maintaining the mental connection with the physical body. The mental connection with the energetic body, the breath. Come back to the center, hold onto your knees. Just take a deep inhalation and then turn to the left. Again, just maintaining the inner vision of the position of the body, just by observing the seat bones, the connection with the ground, the balance of the legs, turning of the abdomen. And then come back to the center. Just come down onto your back, have a blanket for underneath your head. You might want a bolster for underneath your knees as well, just to soften out your back, because some of those, that supta virasana, because you stay there for a little while, can feel fairly intense. So just at first, just come down onto your back with your knees bent, with a blanket underneath your head. Pull your knees up to the ceiling and then stretch. Sorry, pull your knees towards your chest and then stretch your legs up to the ceiling. Just for a brief viparita karahni, pressing the lumbar and the sacrum down into the floor, lifting the legs away from the lumbar and the sacrum. Okay, release the knees, bend the knees, and then just bring, if you've got a bolster handy, maybe bring the bolster underneath your knees. Make sure you're in a really good straight line right down the center of your mat, then bring your arms out to the side. Just allow the body to just completely release into the floor. Letting go of the muscles of the arms and the legs. And then observe that feeling of lightness that radiates out from the bones and into the muscles. Into the muscles and the organs. And the flesh and the skin. Just basking in that feeling of energetic lightness. Distributing it with the breath down into the toes, into the fingers, and then up into the top of the head. Bring good energy into the brain. basking in that feeling of positive energy. And then wiggle your toes, wiggle your fingers. Just bring yourself back into this pose of Shavasana. Bring your feet onto the bolster if you've got it there, or just bend your knees in towards your chest. And then just rock from side to side, from top to bottom. Just giving yourself a gentle massage on the spine. And then gently roll onto your right side. Just stay down for a breath or two. And then straighten out the top legs, come back up into a seated position. Just the final cross legs with your hands in Namaste, just a final spinal lift. Drawing your breath in through your nose down into the abdomen. Be conscious of the energy that you have released through your practice this morning, that good, positive, healthy flow of clean energy that the extensions, forward bends, the twists and the inversions bring to the body and to the mind. And then draw your chin down to meet your chest. Just spend a moment to seek to acknowledge the positive energy you've created inside. And then send some of that positive energy out into the world. To people and places, and things that need our positive energy. And then gently release the backs of your hands down toward your knees, palms facing upwards, and as you raise your head, allow your eyes to gently open and the focus to softly come back. Thank you very much. So hopefully you feel as though you've really lifted your energy from the inside and brought about a sense of internal balance. So thank you very much for joining me.